Hey, 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 I am back. It's your girl, Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic, and you have tuned into the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. It is episode 139, and in my chat room and always with me on YouTube is my boy, Brandon Heaton. Yes, Brandon, I heard that Lilo and Stitch is your favorite animated film and that it is getting a remake, but you don't know how you feel about it yet? I don't either. So we'll talk about that a little later. But what I am going to talk about is telling people that if you are here for the first time, please give me a big old thumbs up on YouTube. Click that bell for notifications and subscribe to my channel. Subscribe. I always have lots of wonderful interviews and reviews here for you every week, Sunday at 5 o'clock. And what I do here is I provide you interviews and reviews with talent above and below the line. And I always start out the show talking about what my week was like. So this week I attended 2 virtual premieres. Now that we have that election out of the way and we're waiting for old boy to concede, I got a chance to go to 2 virtual premieres. The first virtual premiere I attended was for a film that I talked about right here on the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. It's called Pieces of a Woman. It stars Vanessa Kirby and Ellen Bernstein. And when I tell y'all, they are the bomb.com. And I'm predicting right here, right now, that Vanessa Kirby is about to be in the strong front runner for Best Actress for her role in this film. It is off the chain. The second virtual premiere I attended was for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And this is a highly anticipated title that is coming to Netflix. My boy Chadwick Boseman, who lost his life earlier this year due to colon cancer, plays Levy. And when I tell you this is the performance of a lifetime, particularly of his lifetime, I feel like everything that he did led up to this performance right here. But I'm not going to review the film. I'm just telling you what the virtual premiere was like. So this was Chadwick Boseman's last appearance on film. He's in it. Coleman Domingo is in it. Viola Davis is in it. Glenn Turman is in it. Mike Potts is in it. It's a really strong cast. I have seen this play, this August Wilson play, on stage numerous times. My good girlfriend Lilius White at one point even played Ma Rainey. It's a fabulous play, and it's one of my favorites that August Wilson wrote. You know, he has 10 different plays that he wrote, but I'll talk about all of that when I review the film. But I did want to talk about those virtual premieres and talk about how much fun I had with them, because it's always great to do a virtual premiere. And right before they did the virtual premiere of I Am Woman, not I Am Woman. Why am I talking about I Am Woman? I meant virtual premiere before Ma Rainey. I was confusing that with Pieces of a Woman. Right before they did the virtual premiere, they also did a virtual premiere of a documentary that's going to be on Netflix as well, called Giving Voice, which chronicles the journey of the contestants who participate in the August Wilson monologue competition. And I'm very familiar with that competition because I am a judge for the Spotlight Awards, which is produced by the Music Center right here in Los Angeles. I'm a judge in the acting category. And a lot of the kids that come and audition in front of me and the other judges usually bring pieces that they're working on for the August Wilson monologue competition. So be on the lookout for Pieces of a Woman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and Giving Voice. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and Pieces of a Woman will be on Netflix, and they won't be there for a while, but I'll let you know when they come. So next up, I'm going to starting off the show with reviews of holiday stuff. I've been talking about Jingle Jangle for weeks. Now I'm actually going to review Jingle Jangle. Jingle Jangle is written, produced by David Talbert. David Talbert has been known for decades with his musical theater productions. I saw one of his that my good girlfriend Yvette Nicole Brown was in, called His Woman, His Wife. He was doing what Tyler Perry was doing, but on a different kind of level. And it was just a staple in the Black community to either go see a Tyler Perry play, a David Talbert play, or one of the other young men that are out there writing and creating their own lane as playwrights. So David Talbert now has taken his playwriting skills to the screen and created Jingle Jangle. When I tell y'all this is a new holiday classic, it's a new holiday classic. It's got Black people for days, and it's a period piece. And I have to say that when the holidays would roll around and I would see all these, classic films with no Black people in them, I hungered and craved to see one with somebody that looked like me. And now David Talbert has provided me and a whole bunch of other people with that. Forest Whitaker stars in it. Madeline Mills plays Journey, his granddaughter. And the premise of it is Forest Whitaker plays this toy inventor who is just on the cusp of greatness with his greatest invention when his protege steals his invention, makes a whole career out of stealing other people's inventions, and Jeronicus just becomes downtrodden, and that coupled with the fact that he loses his wife just gives him no hope until his granddaughter comes to stay with him, and she renews his faith and hope. She renews his faith in life. She renews his faith in his inventing. It is a beautiful, beautiful story. It includes some stop animation. It includes some puppetry. There's lots of musical numbers. John Legend is one of the producers on the film, so the music is off the chain. Forest Whitaker, honey, is singing with sultry, dulcet tones and gang and doing a little African dance. He even got a dance break. I'm like, okay, Forest Whitaker, for the dance break and the singing, he's letting us have it. Anika Noni Rose plays his daughter. She has a number. Keegan-Michael Key is singing. He has a great number. Everybody in it. Lisa Davina Phillip is in it. She plays the postmaster that's all over Jeronicus. It's beautiful, y'all. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So check it out. It is streaming on Netflix right now. It is called Jingle Jangle. Next up is a film that I saw called Hillbilly Elegy. Hillbilly Elegy is based on a book by, it's based on a true story rather. And it's directed by Ron Howard. You know Ron Howard from doing Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind. I interviewed him a couple of years ago for a documentary that he produced called Pavarotti, and he has another documentary that's out called Rebuilding Paradise, about Paradise, California, when it burned down. And I think we're going to see a father and son vying for awards this award season, because his daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, who I had on the show earlier this year, she's going to be a contender with her documentary Dads. But back to her dad, Ron Howard, and his film Hillbilly Elegy is dealing with a family that is struggling with addiction. Is dealing with a family that has issues with choosing yourself over your family. It's a rescue and survival story, and it is a true story that takes place in the Appalachian Mountains. Now, I got an education because I thought Appalachia was pronounced Appalachian. Got an education. It's Appalachian Mountains. There's some great dialogue in it. There's one line where somebody says, she's dumb as a bag of hair. Glenn Close's character says that. It stars Glenn Close and Amy Adams in roles that I've never seen either one of them do before. They are crushing it. Crushing it. And it reminded me so much of my life with my auntie, Mama Clee, when I was growing up in St. Louis, Missouri. But the biggest takeaway that I got from Hillbilly Elegy is nothing is a cliche, but a family trying to survive. That's the biggest lesson that I got from it. So it is streaming on Netflix. You guys check it out, Hillbilly Elegy. Ammonite is a film that stars Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan. Now, if you got Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan in anything, it's going to be fantabulous. The pacing of this film is a little slow for me. It's directed and written by Francis Lee. The pacing is a little slow, but it's a lesbian themed movie. It's about this woman who's like a scientist, archaeologist, so to speak, who takes in this woman who's sick at her husband's bidding and begging, and they end up being in a very brief but torrid love affair that doesn't end well. I love their performances. They say nothing and say everything all at the same time, Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan. So I would see this film for their performances. Kate Winslet's performance in this film reminds me a lot of the character that she played in The Reader. I really loved her in that film, but this character feels very reminiscent of that. So yeah, it's called Ammonite, and it is streaming right now. It started streaming on the 13th. The next one I want to talk about is a film called Sound of Metal. Sound of Metal is a film I talked about earlier when I did the virtual AFI Film Festival, and my dumb behind, of course, with the title Sound of Metal, I'm like, well, this is going to be a a drama about a metal band. I'm so not into it. But it wasn't a film about a metal band. It was a film about a member of a metal band who is a drummer who loses his hearing and how he goes about struggling with that and making that work for him. It stars Riz Ahmed, Olivia Cooke, and Paul Raci. And when I tell you the three of them are shredding, the three of them are shredding. It deals with codependency. It deals with what the meaning of life really is, what you think your calling is versus what your life turns out to make your calling be, if that makes sense. The performances, like I said, are great. It reminded me so much of when I lived in Washington, D.C., and I was a student at Howard University, and I would watch the kids from Gallaudet, the deaf kids from Gallaudet talk. So what happens is once Ruben, who's played by Riz, goes to a halfway house because he has addiction. So he goes to this halfway house for deaf people. 3/4 of this film, y'all, is complete deaf silence. No pun intended. It is the most wonderful film. I watched this film 3 times. It's one of the most wonderful films I've seen simply because it makes you pay attention. You have to pay attention when you watch this film. So having said that, I did some interviews with some of the talent. I have 3 of them for you today. One is with Darius Marder, the director and writer. One is with Olivia Cooke, and one is with Paul Raci. So I'm going to start it off with my interview with Darius Marder, the writer and director of Sound of Metal. Take a look and a listen right now.
Hello, Darius. How are you? What's shaking, bacon?
Hey, God. You know, it's great to see you. What a great room you're sitting in. Everything about you is just like alive. I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I try my best. We only get one, right?
We do only get one journey here.
So let me just tell you something. I love Sound of Metal so much. I saw it originally during the AFI Film Festival, and then I watched it again a couple of times. But one of the things, yes, like I always watch movies a couple of times because I miss stuff the first time that I didn't see the second or the third time. But the thing that stood out to me more so than anything else with this film, 2 things, is the fact that the deaf community isn't being made to look cartoonish as they have in some other films with the over animation of the sign language. So there's that. I appreciated that. As someone who knows quite a few people in that community, I really appreciated that. And the other thing I appreciated is the sound, what you did with the sound. I want to talk to you about how did you coordinate with the sound designer to make those moments where it is, because 3/4 of that movie is absolute silence. And that's hard to do, to keep an audience captivated. What was the decision to do that as opposed to, making another choice?
Misguided. No, I'm kidding. It was a high bar to set for this movie. And there's nothing worse. Like, this is my first fiction debut, and people had to put up with me for years and years and years and years saying, I'm going to do something you haven't heard before. I'm going to do something you haven't seen before. And there's nothing worse than a director saying something like that. He's a pretentious jerk. But I really did want to do something new here. I wanted to explore a perspective that we hadn't felt. And I think that I knew that in order to do that, the truth of the world around it and the rigor of the story had to be absolutely dogmatically on point. And whether you like it or you don't, I believe it is. And I worked very hard to get that language. And I worked very hard with my extraordinary team, the sound designer and my editor, who's just next level, and my DP, who's what I did is actually, for my keys, I hired all amazing technicians, but all storytellers, because I believe that's what we're doing at the end of the day, is we're telling stories. So the story allows us to sit. If the story is strong, we can put up with a lot. I think that because I think we're made of story. I think it's like in our DNA, So if the story's strong enough, we can actually experience something that's transcendent. That's my hope.
It was beautiful. And that very last moment, that moment where he's sitting there and he takes the implant out to just be in silence with this transformation that he's gone through. Where did the idea from this come from? Because I just loved it. I loved everything about it. I really did.
You know, it took a really long time to find that, believe it or not. And it took years to find that ending. I mean, I wrote it with my brother and even by myself before I started writing with my brother, probably a couple thousand pages to find this story and what ended up being the story. And most people watch this and they go, man, I couldn't have seen it coming. Some people watch and go, yeah, I knew that would happen. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You can't possibly have known that was going to happen, because it took me years to find that truth. And sometimes that's the way it is with writing. It's like, of course, that's what happens. Of course, that's where you get to. But strangely, it was so elusive. And once I found it, it was wonderful, because it was this true north, and everything had to earn that moment. I always thought about it. It just had to be earned, utterly earned, but not overly played. So it was just a really interesting balance that way. Great creative process, you know?
I do know. Thank you, Darius. This is a beautiful film. I'm so happy that I got to see your directorial debut, because it's a big one. And I'm glad I was there for all of it, and I'll support you in any way I can.
Oh, well, it means a ton to me. And thanks for watching the film more than once. That's a real honor. So thank you. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you as well. Thank you so much.
Take care.
All right, so that was Darius Marder, the writer and director of Sound of Metal. Next up, I have Paul Raci. Now, Paul plays Joe. He is the person that runs this halfway house that Riz is in, and he actually is the child of someone. He is the child of an adult person that was deaf. So he talks about that in our interview. So take a look and a listen to my interview with Paul Raci from Sound of Metal.
Hey, Carla, how are you?
I'm great, Paul. I enjoyed you so much in this film. I enjoyed the film in general. I really did, because I was just saying this to a girlfriend of mine before I hopped onto the call, that I've seen a lot of films dealing around the deaf community. And I feel like they are always making the characters look a bit cartoonish, so to speak, and not real. And this was the first time that I saw a film where everybody was just real. They weren't treated as a second-class citizen. They weren't treated like they were different or less than. And I enjoyed that so much. And I really enjoyed your character, Joe, because Joe didn't take no gunk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Joe was on it. And I really want to talk to you about your band.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about your band. I want to know, like, how long you've been doing this band situation, and where did y'all play pre-pandemic? I want to know all about it.
Are you in LA at all?
Yeah, I'm in LA.
All right. Look, we play heavy metal bars. There's a place called Petey's Place in Tarzana that we play. Everything's closed right now. I have a Black Sabbath tribute band. We do, and it's called Hands of Doom. I do all of Ozzy's stuff. I sing Ozzy. I'm the lead singer, and I do it in sign language. So every time you come and see us gig, there's like 50 or 60 deaf people in the audience. And it's a wild scene, because all the heavy metal rockers that are usually there are just freaked out by everybody using sign language. What, deaf people like music? Yes. It's like when you look at the movie, deaf people have addictions. Yes. Deaf people have problems. They're not these little sweet, little innocent. No, it's like they're just real. And so that's the thing about deaf people, I think, that people should take away from this. They're not a monolith. They're not all the same. Some have a little bit of hearing, some don't, some sign, some whatever. But please stop labeling us, and please stop putting hearing actors in deaf roles. You know, that's the thing that really pisses the deaf community off. And so when you see this movie, these are real deaf people, and a lot of them are really great actors. And you know, it's hard enough for me to get a role as a hearing guy. If you're a deaf actor in this town, if you're a black deaf actor in this town, you're going to have 10. You have to fight 10 times as hard to get the role.
There's a guy that's at my agency that's deaf that I know. And he has the cochlear implants and everything. And he has a hard way to go. He works quite often though, actually.
Right. I know several of them that I know of. Do you know Shaheem? The one
no.
in this movie? He's the dancer in this movie. Well, there's so many.
Great. He was great.
Exactly. So leave us alone. Let us be who we are is what they're asking, So I think this might be a breakthrough for some of them, just to portray them correctly,
I love that you said that. And can you just really quickly talk about Coda,
Coda.
Yes, child of deaf adults. Just talk about that real quick.
I'm a child of deaf adults, meaning my parents were deaf. I grew up in the 50s where there was no technology. There was none of this captioning, whatever. So I was the interpreter. I was the go-between. When my father wanted to watch Bonanza, instead of sitting next to him, I sat next to the TV and I'm interpreting what Hoss is saying and Little Joe and all that. And then now the Fugitives. I got to do the Fugitive for my dad because there was no captioning. But I did it out of an act of love. It became like, God, I just love watching my father's face. Actually, because he used to watch TV shows trying to invent what he thought they were saying. And we would laugh about it. Because what do you think he just said? Well, he'd make up something. That's not what he said. So now deaf people are so fortunate. It's a different world. But being a coda in those days was much different than it is today. I'm so tied to that deaf community. I just love them. It's crazy.
And I love you. I love your enthusiasm. I love your passion. I love what you did with this role in Sound of Metal. I hope that other people will get it and that it resonates with the rest of the world the same way it resonated with me, because it really, really did. I loved it so very much.
Thank you, Carla. You got to come see my band one of these days.
Look, when this pandemic is over, baby, I got a seat and I'm going to learn me a little bit of sign language so that I can hang with the homies.
All right, I'm going to remember you. Okay, Carla.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I wasn't joking. I really am going to go to one of his concerts and hang with the homies. I was so not kidding about that. Last up is my last interview for the day. It is with Olivia Cooke. She plays Lou opposite Riz Ahmed. I was going to play Riz Ahmed today, but I actually have another engagement after my show, so I can't go over. I have to kind of end sort of on time. So anyway, take a look and a listen to my interview with Olivia Cooke, who plays Lou in Sound of Metal.
Hello, Miss Olivia. How are you?
Good, Carla. How are you?
I am fantastic, girl. You were giving me everything in this movie. I loved you so much in this film. This film was an unexpected joy for me because first of all, I didn't know what I was in for. As I saw the title, I was like, Sound of Metal. I'm like, oh dang, this about a metal band, really? I'm so stupid. That's what I thought. But it's not. It's about relationships. It's about love. It's about self-discovery. It's about self-esteem. It's about all these things. So when you read the script for Sound of Metal, what was it about Lou that made you go, I got to play this part?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. This film covers so many themes, like, well, music for one, but loss of hearing, the deaf culture, a codependent relationship. And I think with Lou, I just know that person who is so fragile and so vulnerable, but finds catharsis in something that's artistic and something that embodies something that feels quite aggressive in a way that's completely against her nature, and just not being able to see until she's experiencing it what autonomy and being independent does for her rather than her own relationship.
Yeah. So how has your perception changed of the deaf community since filming this? Because I went to college in Washington, D.C., where Howard University is. So I was real close to Gallaudet. So I know how my perception changed seeing that every day on my way to school. I just wanted to know what your feelings were and your perception, how it was shifted in shooting Sound of Metal.
Oh, massively. God, I was so ignorant, and I'm so I mean, I didn't know any deaf people growing up. I wasn't involved in the deaf community at all. And to know that it's a culture and it's not a disability, it's not a hindrance. The hearing world that we inhabit is just not set up and is so inaccessible, and it wouldn't cost us anything. It'd be no skin off our back to make it accessible for the deaf community. And just what a beautiful culture it is, and how ASL, BSL should be taught in schools from the get-go. It's just it's such an easily accessible language.
And who was that person? Lou is there for Ruben, like no matter what, until she can't be anymore. Who has that person been for you?
God, I mean, my mum. Your mums, you can do the worst thing in the world, and mums will still be like, "You're a knob, but I love you, and I'll be there for you. But you're not a very nice person right now." And it's never that way back. With daughters to mums, it's always mums with their children, and so probably my mum is that person for me.
My mom is that person for me too. I'm looking forward to watching you get an Oscar nomination because it's deserved. And I appreciate you, and I loved you in this film so much. Good luck to you, and I look for you on the next one.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. Have a lovely day. Thank you.
All right. Bye now.
I was serious about that. Olivia Cooke is shredding. I know I say that about everybody, but I'm a fan of art. I love movies. I love actors. What can I say? But she really is shredding. So make sure that you check out Sound of Metal. Make sure that you check out Ammonite, Jingle Jangle, Hillbilly, Elegy. And next week, I'm going to talk about Run. I'll do a review of Run, which is coming to Hulu. And I have an interview with the director, Anish Shaganti. You guys might remember his name from Searching. He directed that film Searching that got John Chu a really big, not John Chu. Why am I saying the wrong name? It got a lot of love last year. I got my names mixed up. It got a lot of love last year with Searching. Just to address some things in the chat room, Brandon and Michael, y'all be going at it and just having a whole conversation. Brandon, this is Mickey Mouse's birthday coming up this week, and I was there celebrating it last year. So we're going to talk a little bit about Mickey Mouse next week. Y'all are talking about DuckTales, and y'all are talking about Darkwing Duck and all kinds of things. But I'm glad that y'all always come over here and support me. You know how much I appreciate you. I shout you out every week and tell you so. For those who joined me for the first time, please, please, please click the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up to let me know you were here. And I'm going to offer a challenge out there to y'all. So your girl is a little, like maybe, I don't know, 600 subscribers shy of being able to make some moolah on this bad boy. So I'm going to need y'all to retweet, repurpose, do whatever you got to do to get me some more eyeballs over here on the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. I would wholeheartedly appreciate it. I really would. So, I'll have some more holiday films for you too. And I want to have y'all check out 2 holiday films that I didn't talk about, but I will go into greater detail next week. Holiday and Operation Christmas Drop. They are both on Netflix and hilarious. They corny, but they fun. So yeah, Holiday and Operation Christmas Drop. So until the next time, this is your girl, Carla Renata. You have tuned into the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. I'm here every Sunday at 5 p.m. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Michael B. Whoop, 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 whoop. And I will see y'all next week. Love, peace, and hair grease on the flip side, baby. Bye.